Hey guys, here we go again. Alright, still on the Nin Bender. Just can't quit this deck, it's too much fun. I am playing Nin versus Captain Sisay, a commander that I've actually had a surprisingly large amount of trouble with in the past. Can be super problematic, especially in the Crypt and Soul Ring era, along with Mana Vault, allowing them to play it on turn 2 before you can even counterspell anything. And it's gotten a hell of a lot meaner thanks to the introduction of the new rule about Planeswalkers being legendary permanents, so that Captain Sisay can fetch all the green and white goodness that's available in those two colors. I unfortunately have a completely unkeepable hand. It would definitely be keepable with just one more land because of a turn 1 Nin backed up by both Force of Will and Remand. I'd probably throw away the tutor and just hope to draw enough land to get the Gilded Lotus activated, but I can't keep this hand at all, even especially not going first, as I would be dead in the water without a second mana source. So regrettably, I have to throw it back. And the new hand is an interesting one. It has a Reliquary Tower, which means that if I don't draw any extra land for a little while here, I won't have to discard. And barring him getting some super fast acceleration, and this Captain Sisay decks don't tend to play with the creature-based acceleration because they're more kind of mid-range or long-range type decks. They don't tend to play with elves and stuff like that. So normally I have a fair amount of time, and if I'm able to get these shackles online, it only takes 2 islands, and I've already got a quasi-island in my hand in the form of the Wayfarer's Bauble. So I'm only 1 island away from being able to steal it off Veldican Shackles and Grim Monolith and stuff. So I decide I'm going to keep this hand, even though it's a little bit risky, but I feel that it's got enough potential, especially Grim Monolith into Coalition Relic, that if I draw a land in the next turn or two, I should be able to catch up pretty quickly and be fine. So I feel like it's better than a random 5-card hand plus a Scry. So I ultimately decide to keep, and he keeps, and I'm going to throw that Condescend, of course, back, hoping to get a land. Go away, Nin. You'll be back later. All right, let's roll. Tower into Bauble. Done. Not the strongest opening, but what can you do? All right. Just really need to draw land. If I draw land next turn, I feel like I'm completely set, barring him having the perfect answers. Come on, deck, deliver. All right, Spell Snare is not what I'm looking for. Can't even cast it to stop a 2-mana play. All right. And he plays Wasteland next to just crush any hopes I had. So now my hand goes from being borderline speculative to being downright disastrous. And I kind of slump in my chair and figure, all right, well, I can need to draw a land or two in the next couple turns, or it's just going to be Scoopsville. Move on to the next one. And sure enough, my deck delivers a land, albeit not one that produces any colored mana right now, so I can't even cast the Spell Snare. But it's better than nothing. I'm feeling a little bit better. If I get one more land, we're back in the driver's seat here. Provided he doesn't have a play like Sylvan Library. 2 mana, I see that and figure don't be Sylvan, and instead it's Safi Eric's Daughter, which is not the worst thing in the world. Would have certainly Spell Snared that if I had the mana available, but what can you do? There'd probably be other 2 mana things to counter later on. Okay, come on, deck. Deliver a second mana source. This is not going to be a game. Boom. All right. Snow-covered island. We're in business. Okay, so the question is, sack the Wayfarer's Bauble at end of turn or play Grim Monolith? And I decide, after some consideration, I'm going to play the Grim Monolith and just ramp out Coalition Relic right away, because that'll make effectively 2 mana on my next turn, which will give me enough mana to sack the Wayfarer's Bauble and cast in the Pain Artist as well before he can get his commander online. And I feel that that's worth it. Worth the risk of him potentially dealing with the Coalition Relic. And obviously this could really backfire if he does have something like Reclamation Sage or a Nature's Claim or something like that. So I'm just going to go with that. All right, here he goes. So I'm just thinking I just need him to not have one of the 3 mana green and white, and one of the about 18 different cards in this range that destroy Coalition Relic. Please don't punish me. He sacks a Floodplain, gets a second white source. All right. We'll take 2. And down comes Council's Judgment. I guess it could have been worse. It could have been something like Aura Shards, but this is pretty ruinous right now. This is not going to even do anything. For a minute there, I hoped that my spell snare would turn into Spell Pierce, but unfortunately it wasn't that. All right. Well, we're back in the position where we need to draw mana again right now, or it's not even going to be a game. All right. Well, there's some hope. That gives me my second blue source as well to fetch a volcanic island, which will enable the shackles. And unfortunately, I don't have the ability to untap the Grim Monolith at end of turn to just snatch his guy. But at least I can counterspell the Captain Sisay, provided he doesn't have Cavern of Souls. Take another 2 here. And after some consideration, he just runs Sisay into counter magic. Though he does have 5 cards in his hand, so it's likely he just feels he can play it again in a couple turns, and he's just going to winnow my hand down further. I'm absolutely going to dissolve here, and I see a Trophy Mage on top, which is a lot less tempting given the fact that I've got the two best 3-drops in my deck. The Relic and the Veldican Shackles are already either in hand or in exile, so this thing is totally useless. I'm going to throw it away and hope to just get another land. Oops. All right. Yes. All right. Well, that's super handy. So I'm faced with the dilemma here of either playing in the Pain Artist or just sitting around and keeping the Grim Monolith untapped and sitting on the Spell Snare. But he's at 4 mana already, and there's so much nasty stuff that can come down in 4 to 5 mana range that I'm not going to sit here and bluff a counterspell that I don't even have. So with that in mind, I decided I'm just going to play Nin and reserve the option to Spell Snare something if he does in fact have just a 2 mana play, and then of course my backup play is to sack this Bauble to get up to 5. And it will give me 4 islands, so I can grab something fairly large with the Shackles if need be. Not feeling good about this game though, as you can imagine. Alright, and then after combat, he plays Path to Exile on Nin, not even waiting for me to activate Nin. And that is honestly a pretty amazing gift, because it gives me another mana source. I can just trivially cast Nin next turn. It gets a card out of his hand and makes further activations of Nin a lot safer. So then he plays 4 mana and he plays Coercive Portal, which is a damn good card here. And unfortunately I have no way to interact with it at all. I just want to top deck Dak Faden here to win the game. Come on, deck. I believe in you. I believe. Jace. Heh, well, that's a Planeswalker. It's not Dak Faden, but it's pretty damn good. Alright, so I'm just going to play the Jace here. I'm thinking about what to do. I ultimately decide Jace is the way to go. I'm going to bounce Safi just to get it back in his hand, force him to replay it, and I can actually activate the Spell Snare. And there was no temptation to draw cards there, really, because I just want to slow him down a little bit. Alright, so he gets to draw 2. So he plays a Dryad Arbor for free, and he pays 3 mana to Kodama's Reach. Okay, well, that's not really a big deal. I mean, it's good, but not the end of the world. And then he plays Safi, tapping out. I get to use Spell Snare. Even though I could steal it, I'm just doing this for tempo, because I want to protect Jace as much as possible. Draw another island. I'm going to draw 3. Lightning Bolt. Nice. All right, well, that's another answer to Captain Sisay. And, of course, these 2 lands are superfluous. So I'm going to throw both those lands back and play the Delta. And I'm going to play Shackles. And since I have no counter magic and nothing further to do, I'm going to slam Nin. This will allow him to run his Dryad Arbor into Jace, which is fine. Gave some thought to just stealing the Dryad Arbor right now to get mana and deny him it, but I figured that getting the Nin online was more important, plus the fact that I can still buy another turn. And barring him having something like Elish Norn, I should be in really good shape. And even if he does have Elish Norn, I can just steal it with Veldican Shackles. And that would be very tough for him to come back from, I think, without having an answer to the Shackles. Because Captain Sisay doesn't work with Elish Norn on the board on your opponent's side. So he actually chooses Carnage over Homage on that upkeep. And, of course, I chose the Homage because I don't want him destroying Jace the Mind Sculptor and my other guy. And my Shackles, too. And after drawing another card and considering his options, my opponent just packs it in here. And I feel like this was a little bit premature. Certainly, I don't know what's in his hand, and maybe he just had a bunch of junk, but he couldn't have had a bunch of expensive legendaries, given the fact that he's got 7 mana already. So I don't really know what he'd be holding, why he would scoop preemptively. But maybe he was just so afraid of this insane combo of Nin Shackles online, the fact that I can steal his. I have enough mana to steal his Dryad Arbor and shoot it for 3 already, plus possible extra card drawn off Jace to get another mana. So as soon as I'm able to repeatedly shoot stuff for 4 and 5 every turn, there's really no coming back from that. It really only takes 1 activation to get it going. So maybe he just realized that he didn't have any way to get around that loop and packed it in. I thought it was a pretty cool game, though. Absolutely in a terrible hole in the early going, but managed to have some timely top decks as far as land was concerned, and got right back into it. I think really the turning point in the game, honestly, was him choosing to Path to Exile Nin before I was even activating it and giving me extra mana, and went on to win from there. Hope you guys enjoyed that game. I've got a much cooler one coming up that's against a budget deck, so stay tuned. See you soon.